Tonight on the Your Life Matters Show podcast.
It's monumental. And I think at the core of it, especially with how we interact in our journey program, our life skills, and how we interact with all of them, it's empowering someone to know that they can do it. If they have lived in a state of fight or flight their entire life and they're just basing their whole entire lives on survival, they don't know that they can do any better. If mom was collecting food stamps and grandma was collecting food stamps and they were doing all of that, it's not that they're lazy. How do they know to do any better? We teach in some of our classes. There are some people that don't even know where their next meal is coming from. Why would they think that they could do any better in their life and dream of a life that looks different?
Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you made the choice to watch our show this evening and joining us for another episode of the Your Life Matters Show podcast with your hosts Steve Hodgson and Dr. Eric L. Davis.
Tonight's brand new episode is titled, When Communities Pray, the Mental Health Impact of Compassion. In life, there are moments that shake us. Moments when words fall short, and all we can do is close our eyes and pray. Prayer is more than tradition. It's connection. Connection to hope, to healing, and to each other. When someone we love is hurting, like Dr. Davis's niece, we're reminded just how powerful that connection can be. In a recent U.S. national survey, praying in groups and experiencing positive emotions in prayer were correlated with better overall mental health, more positive self-concepts, greater feelings of control, and mattering. The same survey found that petitionary prayers, praying for outcomes, belief in an impersonal God, and negative emotions experienced during prayer were associated with higher depression, anxiety, or lower sense of control. In a survey of older adults, prayer was associated with lower depressive symptoms. This relationship was mediated by greater feelings of being loved, compassionate love. One study found that praying to a loving, protective God is linked with fewer anxiety symptoms, compared to praying without an expectation of comfort. Understand that tonight's episode is not necessarily about religion. Regardless of your beliefs, it can be God, some higher power, belief in nature, and the power from the earth. It is all a matter of connection. Today, we'll explore how prayer touches the mind and the heart, how faith and mental health come together in ways science is only beginning to understand. Steve Hodgson and Dr. Eric L. Davis will speak to a wonderful organization about their work in communities, not only in Florida, but throughout the United States. The name of the organization is Love ENC, which stands for Love in the Name of Christ. We are honored to have as our guest Julia Ray, who is the Associate Executive Director of the Florida branch. This is the Your Life Matters Show podcast, because your story, your hope, and your prayers, and your life truly matters. It is a pleasure to welcome you here this evening. Here are your hosts.
Well, howdy, and welcome to another new episode of the Your Life Matters Show podcast. I'm Steve Hodgson, and as always, I'm joined here by my good friend and co-host, Dr. Eric L. Davis. Now, today we're going to take a heartfelt look at something deeply human, the power of prayer, and how it connects to our mental and emotional well-being. Well, it's going to be a little bit of a different show, I guess. I really don't want to turn anybody off that's watching right now that's not religious. We're not going to go super religious. And in fact, you really should be staying and listening to our guests today because, again, they're helping people that whether they're religious or not, even though they're a religious organization. So this isn't going to be one of those pounding things on religion. Remember, we're a mental health show. So we're just taking things from every aspect. So in times of uncertainty, which is like illness, fear, loss, prayer often becomes our lifeline. It's how we hold hope when the world feels really heavy. Now, recently, as many of you know, Dr. Davis's niece, Adelie, has been courageously battling cancer and a tumor, and countless people have been lifting her and her family up with prayer. That outpouring of love and faith is actually what inspired today's conversation. Now, we'll talk about what research says about prayer's impact on mental health, how it can bring peace, connection, even healing, and how communities bring those prayers to life in real, tangible ways. And later on in this episode, we're going to talk to Julia Ray, who is the associate executive producer of an organization called Love Inc. of the Heart of Florida. Now, Love Inc. stands for Love in the Name of Christ. It's not incorporated. They're a national organization, and we're thrilled to have the associate director with us today. So we want you to stay with us, okay? Really, don't go away. Hang out with us for a little bit.
Stick around.
This one's personal. Yeah. Take a seat, relax, okay? This one's personal, powerful, and full of heart.
Let's face it, life can feel like too much at times. Stress, loss, big changes. They can leave us feeling lost. But taking the step to reach out for help, that takes real strength. That's why Waypost Counseling exists. Founded in 2020 by Dr. Eric L. Davis and licensed therapist Aaron Davis, Waypost Counseling was created to be more than a counseling office. It's a place where people are heard, supported, and given the tools to move forward. Waypost Counseling offers more than just therapy sessions. They provide individual and couples counseling, specialized help for problem gambling, and consulting services. Their team supports adults facing ADHD, grief, addiction, relationship struggles, and major transitions in life. The name Waypost captures their heart. It's a marker along the path, helping you see where you are and where you want to go. Therapy doesn't have to feel overwhelming. At Waypost Counseling, you'll find honesty, warmth, and practical solutions that create lasting change. Whether you're in Indiana or anywhere in the U.S., you can connect with them in person or online. Don't wait for the perfect moment. The first step is what matters. Visit waypostcounseling.com or call 317-762-0904 to connect with Dr. Eric Davis or 317-659-0179 to reach Aaron Davis. Waypost Counseling is certified by the Indiana FSSA Division of Mental Health and Addiction and the Indiana Coalition Against Domestic Abuse. Remember, you know that your life matters, and right now your next step matters. Make the call today.
So, Dr. Davis, let's get right into this one if we can. We've seen so many people turn to prayer during crisis, whether it's illness, loss, uncertainty. Even when Charlie Kirk was killed recently, nation turned to prayer. So let's look at this first from a mental health perspective. What actually happens when someone prays?
So from a medical standpoint, or from a mental health perspective, when a person prays, it's affecting some key areas of the brain. So there's the prefrontal cortex, then the anterior cingulate cortex, and the limbic system. And those different parts, the prefrontal cortex really has to do with attention and executive control. That's how we make sound decisions and so forth. The limbic system controls emotional regulation, and then the anterior cingulate cortex, that has to do with empathy. So when you think about it, it's when a person prays, it's really affecting these key areas, and I think it's a feeling of connectedness, which I'm sure we'll talk more about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I could see someone that's praying, it having an effect on them that they feel like they've done something.
Yeah.
Also, they feel like they're being part of the cure.
Yeah.
Whatever, they're doing their part is probably the best way of putting that. And I'm sure that, you don't lose that sense of caringness, but you also feel like, okay, there's not much else. I'm hopeless. Okay. What, like even in Adelaide's case, I'm here. What can I do to help you and Adam and Jen and stuff? I can't, I'm here. So praying is my outlet for that.
Absolutely.
And, so I can see how that works. So in times, we're talking about your niece's battle, the families feel helpless. Prayers can feel like the only thing a person can do. How can that act help someone feel more grounded or helpful?
I think because it really is a way, when you pray, it's also another way of practicing mindfulness. or very similar, because it puts you in the present moment. It helps you get clarity on what direction you want things to go. Um, and so yeah,
Yeah, well, a prayer functions similar to mindfulness or meditation when it comes to stress relief or emotional regulation.
yeah, very much so. And like I said, it's because, if you think of meditation, it's being in the moment. It's, just existing in the moment, clearing our mind. Um, you know, all of it is existing in the moment.
Mhm.
Mindfulness, prayer, meditation, all of that. It's I'm here right now. This is the environment. There are things that maybe I'm worried about, but they can't hurt me right now. You know, um, and like you said, I think that especially in really trying times, it really is a way to practice um, hope. It's a physical thing we can do to put hope into action. And we're going to talk a lot more about that today.
Well, yes, exactly. And research is showing some mixed emotion outcomes on this because whereas people find peace through prayer, people are going to struggle if their prayers go unanswered.
Mhm.
Um, and we could go into that if we wanted to anyway. But what factors make prayer emotionally healing versus emotionally painful?
I think that feeling like you mentioned, feeling like we're doing something in the moment,
Mhm.
it's a way to stay connected with a common focus. It's basically um, it's a way to not only practice a spiritual relationship, whatever that looks like for each person, but it's also a way to be mindful of where we're at, what direction we want to go. It's just a good thing. It kind of it's a chance to step back and refocus, you know. And I
And
do
well,
think that I
go
do
ahead.
think that it can be difficult, when people feel like their prayers aren't being answered, and that I wish I had tons of solutions for that. But my solution would be keep praying.
Yeah, well, it's not only that too. It's if we're looking from a religious aspect, this is God's will. This was
Yeah.
God's plan. So even though you're praying that for that person for an outcome you want, that may not be, the outcome that God had predetermined. And there's reasons for everything. So, that I say that, but I can see how people feel hurt. Well,
Sure.
dang, I sat and I prayed for a month, some Catholics would say, I did 4 novenas, and so over it, I lit 100 candles and, nothing. And yeah, I mean, I get how that, remember we're still with a mental health side of this. So I understand how some people can be depressed over that. Now,
Yeah.
in therapy, you often discuss cognitive reframing.
Mhm.
So, how might prayer play a role in reshaping negative thought patterns or promoting self compassion?
Prayer can help us find the hope in any situation, really. So in with cognitive reframing, it's really looking at life events and kind of rewriting the narrative around them. In my own life, without going into my whole story, I'm a person in recovery, and years ago, um, I had a judge help motivate me to get some help. And, at the time that was very painful to go through, and it was a, horrendous experience. But looking back now, it's kind of that entire situation has kind of rewritten itself after the fact, where I wouldn't do what I do for a living. I wouldn't, like
Mhm.
my life would not be the same had it not been for those times. So, prayer in the midst of a really rough situation just helps us to see the glimmers of hope, that exist. And sometimes some situations it's really hard to do that, but prayer can definitely help.
Now, like you say, it's how we look at something. It
Hmm.
you can view an event from so many different ways.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. You go on the internet, and even 9/11. Now we did 2 shows on 9/11, but
Uh-huh.
I've been watching like some series from Tucker Carlson put out. If anyone watches it, it's part 4 Okay, I don't pay for his channel, so it's part 4 he's released on 9/11 and what we actually don't know
Wow.
about, and the official narrative is just, does not add up to everything that's going on. And it's how you look at something.
Yeah.
People will look at 9/11 and remember the horrific feelings that they felt that day. There are other people who look at 9/11 and say conspiracy, all
Yeah.
over the place, or hatred. And
Yeah.
it's how you look at stuff. So how, from a clinical point of view, and obviously you can't overstep clinical boundaries, but how can you or professionals respect and even integrate a client's spirituality or prayer life into treatment?
So it depends. One of the things that I personally have done for years is I'll offer Christian counseling if a client wants it, but they have to specifically ask for it. It's not something that I advertise, and I only offered in an individual therapy session setting.
Mhm.
So, but can you ask the question one more time? Sorry.
Well, I mean,
Sorry.
how do you integrate a client's spirituality and prayer into treatment?
I ask them, so if spirituality is something that's important to them, then obviously I respect that. And I always challenge them to let me know how they can utilize that. If we're dealing with anxiety, then one of the things that we could do to integrate that is, if they're a Christian, is pray for the anxiety, pray for God to take the anxiety away, pray for calmness, pray for peace, those sorts of things. But I'm always open to whatever. I mean, because we are biological and spiritual beings, and it's important that we treat the whole person. So encouraging clients to practice their spirituality, whatever that looks like for them, is always an important part of therapy.
Right. And for those that are listening, spirituality does not necessarily mean, the
Yeah,
Catholic.
religion.
Yeah, it's right, exactly.
I
So,
always say that spirituality really is just about connectedness to others and to our environment,
mhm.
you know?
Well, we will do a show on Mother Earth and
That
all that
sounds
stuff
good.
like that. Okay, so let's look at it from a community side, because I know we have some questions for our guests today about communities. But when a community gathers to pray, what does that collective act do for our mental wellness? Both the person being prayed and those that are offering the prayers.
It's a mutually beneficial thing where the individual who's being prayed for example, they know that people care. In my what's been absolutely amazing has been watching how the community has rallied around my brother and his family, with what's going on with Adelie. And I mean, he's just been absolutely blown away, just humbled. um, and the thing I said to him, and I think this is, I said, this is all love in different forms. It's like some people offer prayers, and that's them, that's their way of letting you know that they're thinking about you, that they're hopeful for you, that they love you, etc.
Mhm.
And some people have given financially, or people have volunteered. I mean, it's amazing, um, when a community rallies around anything. We can always do much more as a community than we can do alone.
Now, what about a person who is receiving all of that? Let's just say, not like in Natalie's case, but there's someone who maybe is similar situation, but is fighting cancer and stuff. What does that do for them with that
It, it
empathy? And
it lets them know that they're not alone. It lets them know that they're not alone. That people are in their corner rooting for them. And also, when we know we're not alone, we know that help is available. So it just lets us know. When people say, "Well, I'm praying for you," or it lets us know that they want the best for us, and they
Mhm.
and that they're empathetic to the situation that we're in, and they are hopeful that things can get better.
you know, how do I put this? Some people believe that prayer alone can heal, divine intervention, as they would call it, while others worry that reliance on prayer might actually delay getting medical or psychological help. We're going to pray for you. Okay, you'll be okay. And
Yeah.
I don't want to say I've seen it on videos where they're just praying around somebody instead of them seeking the medical or mental help that they need. How do we balance that faith and evidence-based treatment?
I think so. I always look to, in scripture, it says faith without works is dead, you know, and I think that speaks to what the solution is. Like having faith is a part of the solution by all means, but without backing that up, or utilizing the help that's offered or whatever it is, then faith in and of itself can't work. And so I always look to that. Where I think it's a two-part solution for somebody, where by all means do address the problem spiritually, how they see fit, but also don't neglect or don't overlook the help or the resources that are available to you that could help, you know. And I just always say it's better to have resources and not need them than need them and not have them.
Yeah, it's important because they really complement each other.
Yeah.
Both the prayer and actual the treatment, for that matter. It's something that we should always put together to help the person. So actually, this is really probably a good time for us to talk with our guest this evening. Okay, well, tonight we're going to talk to Julia Ray, who is the Associate Executive Director of Love Inc. in the heart of Florida. Now, as I said earlier in the show, Love Inc. is love in the name of Christ. Okay, they're a national organization as well as this is a local chapter. And we're thrilled to have the Associate Florida Director with us here today. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to join us for an interview today. It's highly appreciative. Now, for our viewers, it's great having you here. It really, really is. Nice smiling face and stuff that helps us to feel better too. Now, for our viewers who aren't familiar, what is Love Inc. and how does it operate?
Yeah, absolutely. So Love Inc. is a 501c3. We're a national nonprofit, and we have 116 affiliates across the United States and over 6 in Kenya, Africa. So we do have a national, Love Inc. National, that is remote, and they help us with our branding materials for us, but all of the Love Incs. Are independently run with the same core values and beliefs.
Mm-hmm. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they work off of different church groups.
Absolutely. So the mission of Love in the Name of Christ is to mobilize the local churches to help transform lives and communities in the name of Christ. So our number one customer, if you will, are our churches. We have 46 partner churches right now. And what we found using this Love Inc. model is that churches usually specialize in specific things that they enjoy doing, whether it's a clothing pantry or an infant and toddler pantry or food bank. So Love Inc. kind of works as the hub. We're right here in the middle, and all of our churches will hear different needs from neighbors and community members and try to figure out how we can fix the need. But instead of running around like chickens with their heads cut off, they come right to Love Inc. And we try to organize all of that for them so that we can pair the right church with the right need to be met.
Can you share the story of how you personally what drew you to the mission of it?
So I actually did insurance, property and casualty insurance for 5 years. I worked in the villages and did insurance. And my dad is he is a music minister at Fairway Christian Church in the villages, and he was actually the chairman of the board of Love Inc. And so he had already been working with Love Inc. for a while, and he was the chairman of the board. And he came home one day and he said, "Hey, I know you don't like insurance. I was like, I don't. Help me. Get me out of here. And he said, well, there's a job opening at Love Inc. Maybe you should just apply for it. And I have no experience. I literally got a degree in music in college. I did not know what I was doing, but I was like, maybe this is a God thing. And so I applied for it. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, I was sitting in a Love Inc. office and I was the newest employee. And so, that was almost 4 years ago, and lots of on the job training. And it truly turned out to be a God thing because not only have I watched lives transform through the help of Love Inc., but my life has also drastically transformed in the past 4 years, which is amazing.
Well, we're going to talk about probably both of those as we go along here. But you're also talking to two musicians also
I
that
love it.
played music throughout most of our lives too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can understand. Trust me, I worked behind the desk and I hated being behind the desk
Yeah.
all the time. So, but I want to go back to the core values.
Mhm.
What are the guiding philosophies of Love Inc., especially like how you treat people and not just serve their needs? Because that's
Absolutely.
important.
Absolutely. So, something that we based off our principles is something called redemptive compassion. It is not just compassion, the bleeding hearts of the world, right? You hear that a lot, the bleeding hearts. I'm so compassionate. There's a difference between being compassionate and actually having help hurt someone. Helping can hurt at times. So, what we do at Love Inc. is we base our values on redemptive compassion, obviously, the Bible first and foremost. How is Christ calling us to treat other people? And redemptive compassion helps explain that a little bit more simply. Number one, everyone has value. It does not matter who you are. It does not matter if you have a disability or if you have higher education or if you don't have even a third grade education. It does not matter. You have value because simply you're a child of God. And so that is how we help people. That is how we think of it. That is how we approach it. And we don't just slap a band-aid on the need, right? If there's a need that comes in, oh, I need, let's say, diapers for my child, right? I can't afford them. I want to hear your whole story because it might not just be diapers. It might be the fact that you're living in your car with your 2 month old and you're escaping domestic violence. There's more to the story. We are not just here to meet, superficial, just physical needs. We are here to help transform lives. And we are very aware the only person who can truly transform a life is Jesus Christ. And having him in your heart, we are merely here to facilitate that change and help encourage those who are willing and wanting for that change to happen.
Speaking of individuals and families that you've helped, could you share a few stories? No names, please.
Of course.
But could you share a few stories of how lives have changed through Love Inc.?
Absolutely. So, this is actually my favorite story to tell. So, if people have seen me speak before, they've heard this story, but I promise I'll make it fun and fresh. We had a woman in our journey program, which is our life skill program on Tuesday nights. We understand that some people just simply don't know what they don't know. They've lived in a certain way in generational poverty, whether it's poverty of wealth or knowledge, their entire life. They don't know anything else. So we teach these life skill classes for them. And we had a woman, and it was my very first week that I was employed with Love Inc. And I was told to go to the Love Inc. journey class. I said, great, I'll be there. This woman immediately came up to me after kind of, I guess, observing me throughout the space. She immediately came up to me. She put her finger in my face. She said, I don't like you. You're fake. No one's that happy. I can't stand you. Like, you need to get out of my face. I'll never talk to you. And some other choice words were said, but we're going to leave those out, right? And I was so concerned, right? I just wanted to do my job. I just wanted to love on people. I love people. Why is this woman so mad? And we continued to cross paths. Every time I was in a room, she was right next to me. Every time we had dinner, she was right next to me. She just kept on putting herself in her life until we started to pour into each other's lives. We started hearing about each other's. And this is a woman who literally would come to our journey classes to try to convince people that God didn't even exist. Why was she there? Maybe for the free meal, maybe for some of the resources that we provide for people who are walking with us. She was not just non-believer, unbelief. Like, you are silly if you believe in God. And so we start speaking into each other. We start kind of getting along. We're not so much on the rocks anymore. We start getting along, and in the past 4 years, she has gone from complete non-believer to now she attends actually my home church with me. And in December of this past year, she was baptized by me, which was so cool. We originally helped her with a well. She had lived for 8 years with no running water in her house. And that's how she came to Love Inc. in the first place. 8 years with no running water. Like Roman cockroaches, or not Roman, German cockroaches, all throughout her house. I mean, just in the situation was terrible. Her ex-husband was abusive in more ways than one. She was just in such a dark place. And her coming to Journey, her opening herself up to not only Christ, but us at Journey so that we could love on her. She has made such a transition. And not only was she baptized, but she actually is currently working in our upscale resale store, Sensible Furnishings, right now as one of our head cashiers. And it's so cool to see what God does and the reason why the Love Inc. model works. We work the model because it works. We can't change anyone's life unless they're ready for it, and transformation has to come through a relationship. I just met you two fine fellows. If I tell you how to change your life right now, you're gonna look at me like, girl, you don't know me. You don't know what I've been through. You don't know what kind of day I've had. You don't know what kind of life I've had. But if I develop a relationship with you two, I figure out your lives. I learn about you because I care. Then we can, okay, well, maybe we should change this part. If you're struggling here, it's all about that relationship.
Doesn't she sound like a psychotherapist?
I wish.
Okay, because that's probably partially what he does, but it's one of the reasons why even the name of the show, at the end of every episode, we always say, remember, your life matters, because everyone's lives matter.
Absolutely.
And that's so important. That's actually the only goal of the show, is to help just one person each episode.
Absolutely.
It's not monetized or anything like that. We're doing this to try to help people. And that sounds exactly what your organization is about. Now, when people receive help, okay, how do they usually respond? Like either emotionally, spiritually, or both?
I would say emotionally, definitely first, right? The whole spiritual aspect of it comes with time, and it comes with that deepening relationship. We are not over here. I just want to be very clear. We're not over here shoving the Bible down people's throats. We're not Bible beaten and, oh gosh, you have to love Jesus. That's not what we're doing here. We're simply trying to be an example of Christ, because some people in their lives, we might be that only example that they see. And so we try to treat people the way that Christ has called us to love others. And so a lot of the ways initially is emotional. There was a grandmother who is housing 10 grandchildren in her home based on necessity. The home is in dire need of repair. It's a hard place to be there and to see it. It needs some work. But the first time that our volunteer handyman came in and came to fix a hole in her wall, she literally hugged that sweet, sweet older gentleman and wouldn't let him go. He couldn't get out of her grasp. There is no way that he could have removed himself from her, because she was so grateful. And he literally just patched a hole in the wall. That's it. That's all he did. And he prayed with her and he loved on her. And it's usually emotional. And then it gets into the spiritual, because let's face it, it's hard to be vulnerable, right? With all of that, but it's usually emotional. It's usually, I don't know where I would have been if you didn't help me. We hear a lot, and something we stand firm on is we're loving people. And that's it. That is what we were doing. We were loving people and meeting needs. And so a lot of the time we hear, I never thought that anyone cared about me until you cared about me. And so that's worth it.
Julie, from your vantage point, how do you see acts of love and service affecting people's mental health, self-worth, hope, and healing?
Absolutely. It's monumental. And I think at the core of it, especially with how we interact in our journey program, our life skills, and how we interact with all of them, it's empowering someone to know that they can do it. If they have lived in a state of fight or flight their entire life, and they're just basing their whole entire lives on survival, they don't know that they can do any better. If mom was collecting food stamps and grandma was collecting food stamps and they were doing all of that, it's not that they're lazy. How do they know to do any better? We teach in some of our classes. There are some people that don't even know where their next meal is coming from. Why would they think that they could do any better in their life and dream of a life that looks different? So that constant encouragement of you can do it. I love you. Our journey teens, because we serve teens as well, right? Teenagers are hard. Whew. I'm not looking forward to mine being a teen one
Nah,
day,
come
but
on.
um, but even the teens, the most we say to them, I love you. And they're like, oh, you're cringy. Stop saying that. I love you. I love you. And we say it and we overuse it because we mean it. And the amount of confidence that that instills in our clients, the amount of bravery that it instills in them. Oh, well, they love me. I can go do this job interview. They love me. I can make a better decision. They care about me. That I am smart. I do have worth. I can do this. I might not have finished high school, but I'm smart and I can figure this out. And so I have seen it change people from being complete introverts, completely isolated from the world, to opening themselves up to people, being ready, going to job interviews, maintaining jobs for years on end now, and thriving. They go from striving to thriving just by a simple word of, I love you. You can do it. And it sounds cheesy, but it's so true.
And I think the spirituality falls into place because no one else has helped them that way.
Mhm.
No one else has dealt
Absolutely.
with them one on one.
Mhm.
So they start to think, well, maybe there's something behind that.
Exactly.
Okay, why are these crazy people coming, helping me patch a hole in the wall?
Right.
Okay, and no one's lifted a finger for me,
Mhm.
before. Maybe you get the welfare check or something, but that's it. Nobody else is trying to inspire me. No one else is
Mhm.
trying to help me, and that will make them search a little deeper
Yeah,
for, where you're coming from and why
absolutely.
you're in the organization. So let me ask you, because I could see even today, because it's, Love Inc. in the name of Christ, that people being afraid to accept help. Because
Mhm.
they're like, I mean, I saw this in back when I lived in Indiana. Okay, I worked with the Catholic Church there. We used to have a food bank where Walmart used to give us food and stuff,
Mhm.
and we would give it out to the people. And there were a lot of people who would not go that we knew needed help, but
Right.
because it was a church
Mhm.
and it was religion, and they thought, oh, here we go, the Bible thumpers, like you say, they're going to
Mhm.
shove the Bible down my throat and stuff.
Mhm.
So how do you deal with those people that are hesitant to accept that help, or maybe just the shame or their
Mhm.
their foolish pride of not accepting assistance?
Absolutely. So we firmly believe at Love in the Name of Christ, not just in honesty, but transparency. So from the jump, whether they want to believe us or not, from the jump, we say the questions that we're going to ask you today to hear your story, they are not to promote shame. They're not to promote you anything. There is no judgment coming from our end of it. We want to hear your story because your story matters. And hearing someone's story, being that empathetic witness to them as they're sharing these hard parts of their life, we have had people that would not even speak to us, not even speak to a volunteer, to spilling their whole entire guts about their very hard situation that might have happened in their youth. And you're like, I've known you for 2 years. We're just now finding out about this, but it was the trust that was built. And so there are people that are hesitant. We found um, a lot less single men are ready to be served. It's harder for some of the men, and that is just what we found. Most of the people who are calling for help are women, because they, family to take care of and the kids to take care of. But, we have male and female volunteers. And so we do whatever we can to get a trust being built. We run about off 250 volunteers
Oh,
in and out each week. And so we have them trained. And so it's that continual, again, like we spoke about, that encouragement. And they might think, oh, well, you're just trying to shove. That's okay. I still love you. You're trying to shove the Bible down my throat. That's okay. I'm not. And you can do this. I still love you. And it's constant. And so, because there's always going to be people that think that that is our ulterior motive. And guess what? We would love to have every single person know who Jesus is. That's the point. But that is not where we take off. That is not our first and the foremost. We are
yeah.
simply trying to be an example of Jesus. So we always have people, thinking our intentions are a little bit different, but we are full of transparency. If they ask, oh, well, you just want me to go to church. I just want to have your needs met.
Right.
I just want to love you. And that's it.
We're fulfilling our prophecy that we're supposed to
Mhm.
be doing. If you want to later become part of that, that's fine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we always say too, when they're running, we run. And when they stop, we stop. We don't go in chasing people, and we move at the rate that they're going. Because if I give you food today, great, your belly's full. If I maybe help, and the next day you're going to come back and you're going to expect, where's my food? You just fed me
Yeah.
yesterday. But if I help you get the resources to get groceries together and then I teach you how to cook, you're set up for the next day. You still have leftover resources so that you can cook yourself a meal the next day. We are always about a hand up, not a hand out.
And
And
yeah.
so if they are willing to work with us, we will work with them. But we model that off of what Christ does for us. How many times is God looking at us and he's like, what are you doing down there? Well, you were just choosing out all the other things. And he still waits with his arms wide open for us. And so that's what we try to be as well.
What, so when obviously in helping professions of any kind, and Steve and I talk about this a lot on the show, self-care. And I always say jokingly that, in school they crammed self-care down our throat. And
Yeah.
we were all tired of hearing it like, oh, self-care. But obviously self-care is really important. How does your team typically practice self-care? Or how do you help ensure that they're taking care of themselves?
Absolutely. So, especially with our volunteers and with our staff, with our paid staff mainly, once a month, we are implementing a mental health day. And that does not mean that you're not working. That means that you are out of the office or wherever you feel the most confident or and take your time with God. We are a Christian organization. It is so easy to constantly pour out and pour out and pour out, but I have nothing else to pour out if my cup is empty.
Yeah.
So we do, the mental health days, and then also we do a devotion together every morning before we start our day at the store. Um, we're doing the devotion, we're constantly praying for each other, and then just being really, again, transparent. This is ministry is hard work. Helping people is hard work, as I'm sure you guys know. And so being really transparent, like, hey, my cup's at 10% today. I don't know how much I have more to give. And then someone is like, okay, well, I have 90. Great. Bring your 90 because I only have 10. And sometimes it is like taking the day on the Monday of this past week, I got to spend the whole day with my 6-year-old. Fantastic. Best day. I felt I came back on Tuesday and I was ready to rock and roll because my cup got filled. I got to spend time with my baby boy. And so it's being transparent and we're very communicative. There you go. With our needs because that's what we expect our clients to do for us too. Tell me what you need. I can't read your mind. What do you need? What do you feel like is going to help you? How can we help you help yourself? And so we adopt that same kind of attitude within our staff and with our volunteers.
So with the people that you assist, even the volunteers and even the administration, um, how do you avoid overextending yourself? In other words, let me rephrase the question. If you went to, let's say, Dr. Davis's house, okay, and he needed assistance,
Mhm.
okay, let's say he wasn't eating, okay, didn't have money for food, and him and his family weren't eating, how does that continue forward to where do you draw the line at a certain point with how much you can help somebody?
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely think that has a lot to do with when they're moving, we're moving, and when they stop,
Mhm.
they stop. We don't provide financial assistance. That's not something that Love in the Name of Christ does. However, we provide resources to try to supplement finances that they need. We provide budget counseling, honestly, which is much needed, even including me. Starbucks addiction. You gotta get that under control. However, we don't provide finances, but sitting there and speaking to them when they're done moving, we might have asked them to do, hey, I need you to do A, B, and C so that we can move on to this next step of your journey, so that we can move to this next portion. If it's been 3 weeks and A, B, and C aren't done, but I have every excuse in the book why A, B, and C aren't done, well, do you need help tackling A, B, C? No, I just don't have time. That is when we stop. And I said this the other day, and this is how we truly feel here at Love in the Name of Christ. Sometimes no is Christ-like. Saying no and allowing someone to stay in the struggle, that is being compassionate. because that is a Christ-like response. And that's going to ruffle some feathers. Saying no, oh, that's not Christ-like, that's not Christian. You can't tell people no. If they are
You
not
can.
walking and they don't want to, you can. If they don't want to help themselves, if I continue to do it for them, then I become their savior. I can't save them. I
Mhm.
can't be the one to save them. And so if I'm doing everything for them and they're not doing anything for themselves, then no is the answer. No is the answer. And so that is how we kind of self-regulate as far as helping the assistants. Now, I can't speak the same for the staff because overextension, we eat, live, and breathe loving. So we're working 80 hours a week, around then. So we try to work the best on balance. We have a very good team of amazing people who are very transparent and honest. And we just are like, I'm at 50 today. Okay, I got 70. Sounds good. I mean, we try to work not to overextend ourselves in the work that we do, but we all have a heart for it. So it's hard for us to kind of say no sometimes.
Can you share any stories of like ripple effects, where you helped somebody and then saw that paid forward kind of?
Yeah. I'm so glad you asked this question. I'm so glad I told the story about our current cashier right now, the one who was not too thrilled with me, and then she got
Right.
baptized. So during the time when she wasn't too thrilled with me, she has a granddaughter, and her granddaughter really wanted to come to our classes. She was probably in second grade at the time. She really wanted to come to our classes because we have great kids programming during our life skill classes. And so the woman got permission from her granddaughter's mom and she started bringing her. Now, the mom did not show up, but the mom was their ride. And so for 4 months, the mother sat in the car, refused to walk into the door, brought the grandma and the granddaughter to class and sat in the car and waited with her arms folded the whole time. She did not want anything to do with it. She goes, I'm glad you like my kid. I don't want anything that you're selling. I don't want anything to do with Jesus. I don't want any of this mumbo jumbo. I don't care. Very hostile. As she continued, one night she walked in, right? And then a couple months later, her long-term boyfriend walked in with her. And now it's been 4.5 years. And not only are they in class, they are involved in a local church. And that same daughter, right? The one that I don't want anything to do with all of this. She is in plans to be baptized within the next couple months. It truly is a ripple effect. It started with her mother who was combated, then her daughter didn't want anything to do with it, and now the granddaughter is learning about Jesus now too and being helped in these families. I mean, and they're all living together in the same place. The daughter took the mother in, that first woman in, after she left her abusive marriage. And so they're all living as one family unit now, and they are all working the journey program and doing the loving thing. So we are seeing entire families break generational curses. And that is the point. That's the point.
Yeah,
I
that's
want to
amazing.
try to pull back just slightly from an individual to more of a community.
Yeah.
What role do you think that loving plays in building stronger, more compassionate communities?
That's fantastic. In addition to the work that we do, we also teach educational classes free of charge to our churches, to anyone who is willing to come and listen to what we have to say. Because we reach such a specific grouping of people. We teach a lot of classes. Not only do we teach redemptive compassion, which is what we base our whole values on at Loving, but we also teach what every church member needs to know about poverty. And there's a whole different mindset of, if you have never lived in poverty, you truly don't understand what the difference in the mindset is. People in middle class value things, people in poverty, or people in middle class value people. People in poverty, they value things because I might not be able to get it again. That's mine. But if we aren't teaching and we're not continually educating, and so I truly believe that our free classes are making a difference in our community. Even if people are just interested in kind of hearing about what we do, we're constantly trying to educate everyone, donors, volunteers, people who might not ever volunteer but are just curious. And I think as a community as a whole, we're understanding that there is more levels to this than what we thought. It's not just, gosh, that same homeless guy is on the side of the street, like, go get a job. It's not that simple sometimes.
That's so true. It for somebody watching who wants to help but doesn't know where to start, what's one small meaningful act they could do today in their
Abs-
neighborhood, at their church, with their family?
yeah. Talk to the person that you don't want to talk to and tell them that you love them. Genuinely. It starts as small as a conversation. It starts as, yes, that homeless guy that is standing on the corner, he might need water and food, right? He might not need anything. We don't know his story, right? We haven't heard his whole story. Tell him you love him. Tell him that you care. That is the whole start of all of it. I would say as well, finding out how you can help without hurting people. It's not just, we don't want to fall into a toxic charity situation. Educating yourself about what it means to be in the lower class. I mean, we have, I believe the last Alice report was like 24,000 people below the poverty line in our area. We're only serving about 2,000 in a year. There's so many more people that need served, but we need people willing. So be willing, be an open heart. And it doesn't matter if you're volunteering with us, although you can, if they're interested in that, we can talk. But it's not just us, it's finding the ways. It's educating yourself, and it's just doing the simple acts, talking to people that you wouldn't normally talk to and saying that you care.
I think I mentioned this in one of our previous shows. When I lived in New York, I was an auditor and went from location to location. But this one office, there was a gentleman who every morning was out there, panhandling for money.
Mm.
And really, he was an older guy, was very always polite and stuff. And I started, maybe just buying him a cup of coffee, and some days I even got him like a buttered roll or bacon and eggs on a roll and stuff, and started talking to him. Now, New Yorkers, we keep like on distance from homeless people because some of them are crazy. But when you start to talk to them, you realize they're not crazy. There's a
Mm.
set of circumstances that got them to where they are right now. And
Amen.
like this gentleman that I can't remember his name, is we're talking like almost 30 years ago, or if not more. He, went through a divorce, lost everything.
Mm.
Okay, but this guy had like a degree, a college degree. I mean, you could hold an intelligent conversation with him, and he just didn't know how to fall back into society. He just
Yeah,
felt like he was an outcast from society. And the more people were talking to him, the more he realized he's just the same as everyone else,
absolutely.
and was more willing to receive help and stuff. So, don't be afraid. I mean, I live in Ocala also. So I know, yeah, we see a lot of homeless and stuff in the street or on the street corners, or at a traffic light. There's, you got to sometimes open your heart and help people.
Mhm.
It's as simple as that. Um, so I'm going to pick one step further from Dr. Davis's last question. So if you're a church or a business or
Mhm.
even just an individual who wants to like volunteer, start a local affiliate, or even donate,
Mhm.
what's the best way for them to begin?
Yep, you can find all of that information on our website. It's loveincflorida.org. And there you can sign up to be a potential volunteer. You can find out all the different ways that we help people. We also have our books listed on there, including Redemptive Compassion, that if someone's interested in finding it and reading it, donations you can give online as well. Going to our website has so many, and it shares our stories. Each week we send out love stories. So you've asked a couple times about different stories of transformation. We send those out every Thursday, and those are also listed on our website. So you can truly see individually and collectively the transformation that's happening. So starting at our website is the best way to start.
What about the sorry, Dr. Davis, what about the national website?
Absolutely. So National does have a website. They will point you to your local affiliate. We are the local affiliate for Central Florida. There are 5 other Florida affiliates, but they are South and Jacksonville oriented. So we are the closest one around here. You had mentioned if someone wants to start another affiliate. the beautiful thing about what we do at Love in the Name of Christ is that in order for an affiliate to start, there has to be at least 6 different denomination churches that agree that something needs to happen in the area. Now, why do they have to be different denominations? Because we're ecumenical in what we do. We have Catholic partner churches, Episcopal. It doesn't matter what you are. Do you love Jesus? Me too. Let's help. Let's do something. And so getting those 6 churches, different denomination churches involved and getting in touch with our national program or our national affiliate is the way that you would start an affiliate, which we only stretch to the outer skirts of Marion County. Bellevue is as far as our affiliate can service in our service area. So we desperately need some churches to get on board and get an Ocala affiliate started. I'm down for it. Let's do it.
A lot of small towns have, I know in Indiana where I was, they had Eucharistic ministers. Sorry, the tongue isn't working well today. But where all the different ministers from all the local parishes got together, they'd meet at a diner and just sit down and have lunch or something, but they would talk about the community and things that are going on. So if there is a set of Eucharistic ministers that are watching, this would be perfect thing. We'll get all your churches together and, instead of talking about helping, they're going to give you a direction on how to help and be really most beneficial to the people that are out there.
Absolutely.
What would you like listeners or viewers to remember or carry with them after they hear this episode? Like as far as kindness, faith, mental health.
Yeah. Anytime that someone is asking for help to be done, everyone kind of always thinks, oh, you're not talking to me. That someone else will get this help done. Someone else will take care of it. It's not me that you're talking to. It's you we're talking to. We are talking to you individually. It is so incredibly important for us, and especially us as Christians, whether I was involved with Love Inc. or not, God is calling us to help those who can't help themselves. And there is a way that we can do it without hurting them. And so understanding that and understanding that you are the person we're talking to, not your neighbor over here, not your church member over here, you. And if we all understand that calling, whatever we can do that matches with our gifts, we can help make this work. We can help see lives and communities transformed in the name of Christ. But you have to understand, it is an individual invitation. And I think a lot of times we forget that. And there's a lot of stuff that I could tell them about love in the name of Christ, but that truly is. I mean, there's enough people in this world that know that the world is hurting. The world is such a scary place right now. And if you understand that, like when we say we need the help, we need the volunteers, like what are we going to do? You are included in the we. You.
And we have the ability to make that change in the world that
Absolutely.
we really need right now. We're relying too much on our government to implement some of those changes. But think about back in the old days, the communities got together and took care of their people. And that's really what we're leaning more towards now, that, the people have to stand up and help each other. So, if you want to learn more about the local chapter or even the national organization, okay, the link will be in the description. The links, I should say, will be in the description of the video here. And if you're looking to do something to give back to your community, maybe just help someone in need that really needs help, I hope you'll seek them out in your area and join them also in their great efforts. Remember, you're doing all of this in the name of Christ. That's what INC said. So God bless you, Julia, for joining us today and talking to us about your wonderful organization. Thanks for taking the time being with us. And also thank you for everything that you do.
Thank you. Thank you
and
so much for
spreading that
having
help
me.
throughout the community.
Our pleasure. Thank you so much.
It's great
Julia.
having you here. You have a great day now. God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
It's the lightning round.
So as it just said, it's time for our lightning round. Confused? Okay, well, we decided to add to our show each week a lightning round. And basically what it is 10 questions for Dr. Davis. He'll give a yes or no or short answers to the question. So let's start. Question number 1. One word that comes to mind when you hear prayer.
Connection.
Number 2, morning prayer or bedtime prayer. Which do you find more grounding?
Myself, morning.
3, do you believe prayer changes the person, situation, or both?
I think both.
Number 4, quick mental boost. Prayer, deep breathing, or a walk outside.
All of the above.
Yeah, I was just saying,
That
I
was a
think I'd
trick
have a hard
question.
time picking one of those
Walking
two. Okay.
outside while praying.
Yeah, walking outside, yeah, while praying and breathing. Taking some
Yeah.
deep breathing as you walk too. Okay. Um, Number 5, what emotions do you most often feel when you pray?
Humility and I'd say humility and just a sense of calm
Number
most of the
6,
time.
what's more powerful, praying alone or praying together with others?
I think praying together, honestly, because that's, you know, more focus, more brain power, more connection.
Number 7, if someone says, I don't know how to pray, what's the first thing you tell them?
I would say just talk to, a higher power. Just talk to them like you would a person.
Yeah, whatever your higher power is that you
Yeah.
believe. So, number 8, do you think answered prayers are a coincidence or connection?
Ooh, I think that they're a connection. I mean, and that, my personal recovery revolves, kind of begins with a very heartfelt prayer. So I definitely think that, prayer for sure.
Um, Number 9, forgot what number we're at. How can prayer influence our thoughts about forgiveness?
I think that when we look at others and when we practice, empathy and we practice forgiveness, it only makes sense. And I think one of the things that comes up for us is, well, if I can forgive other people for things, why can't I forgive me? And I think that that's a really good question that we should ask ourselves.
Okay, the last of the lightning round questions. One message you'd want listeners to take away about prayer and mental health.
That they're both extremely important.
So I got a few more questions before we end this really great episode. And I say that not only for the prayer, but for Julia, who just spoke to us too about stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, that was a phenomenal interview. If you, in your experience, okay, how does prayer foster resilience during long-term struggles like chronic illness or grief?
I think it keeps us focused on the hope and the solution. It helps us to keep the goal in mind, or what we're hopeful for in mind. Um, and I mean, I'm a firm believer that hope is everything. I really believe that. I believe that hope and gratitude are the cornerstones of human life, as far as how we operate. So hopefully that answered the question.
Well, like I said at the beginning, I wanted everybody who wasn't religious to hang out. So
Yeah.
here's a question that actually will affect you as well. For those that don't identify as religious,
Mhm.
can similar practices like meditation, reflection, or even gratitude offer the same mental health benefits?
Yeah, I think so. I think it definitely, it's definitely a step in the right direction because, really a spiritual relationship is about understanding, what I can and can't control, what's in my control, what's not, really, and it's just about, doing good, doing the next right thing. So my advice for someone who's not, religious is I would still recommend, meditation, talking to the universe, so to speak,
Mm.
anything that's going to work because, really what matters is that we're utilizing the gifts of connectedness.
So I'm going to ask one final question then. What message would you share with anyone that's listening right now who feels hopeless or that their prayers are just going unanswered?
I would say hold on a little bit longer, don't don't lose sight of hope, because hope does exist. And, you know, look around and see if maybe there are some opportunities that you're not seeing currently, you know?
I mean, there's so much, in prayer. Prayer is very powerful, and it can also have a very powerful effect on yourself.
Yeah.
And, like we said, whether or not you're, religious or what, be spiritual and pray, because it can actually help you. So as you heard today, prayer is more than just words spoken in the silence. It's a bridge between people, between hope and healing, between the mind and the spirit. So whether you pray quietly, aloud, or simply send good energy into the world, it all matters. Now, Dr. Davis, thank you for sharing your heart and your insight. And to everyone out there who's been praying for his niece and for others facing their own battles, your compassion truly does make a difference, as well as your prayers. And also a very special thank you to Julia Ray for joining us today from Love in the Name of Christ, for sharing what their story and their mission is with us. I implore each and every one of you to check them out. Find the local chapter in your area. Remember, go to the national website there. It lists all the local chapters, and give them a hand. There are ways to bring this to your own church, to start being a part of Love Inc. as well, as Julian talked about. So, and also, very importantly, don't forget to like, subscribe, and even leave us a comment and share this video. I mean, just leave us a comment saying, I like this video, or I didn't like this video. Tell us what you think about Love Inc. and the help that
Tell us
they're
how
providing.
wonderful you like our hairdos.
That's right, exactly.
How great our hair looks.
Whether we should tell our hairstylist to comb the hair over a little differently. Remember to visit our website at yourlifematterspodcast.com also. So remember, every step you take is a part of your unique story. Embrace your worth and keep moving forward. And always remember, your life matters. God bless you, and we hope you join us again next week for another new episode. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this week's new episode of the Your Life Matters Show podcast. Please be sure to join us again next Thursday for another great episode with your hosts, Steve Hodgson and psychotherapist Dr. Eric L. Davis. Please remember to subscribe to our channel if you have not already done so, and hit the like button and leave a comment. Your help with this helps us reach a wider audience that may need our help.